Alright, let's start off with the requisite cup of coffee to get everything going. The best part of waking up. Is that product placement? Hey everyone, your devious GM Bobby here. Why am I feeling devious? Because I've recently decided that I was going to rip control away from my players and throw them into a terrible situation from which they must try and escape. You see, recently I was planning a scenario for my players and I had this really neat idea. I wanted them to get thrown into prison and have to break their way out. They'd have to rely on just their raw skills and wits. The problem I had was I didn't know how to get them into jail. My first thought was just to make them fail the run and get thrown into prison. But then I thought that would suck. That just wouldn't feel good. Also, what if they did really good on the run? Then me throwing them into prison anyway will feel really contrived and obvious to them. So then my second thought was, well, why don't I just let them in on the idea? Why don't I tell them this is what I'm planning, and at the end of it, you're gonna get thrown into prison? Well, then I realized that's an even dumber idea. So then it hit me. Why don't I avoid the buildup altogether and do what a lot of novels and movies do and just throw them right in the middle of the action from the very start? So they start the session and they're already in the middle of a botched bank robbery, surrounded by cops who are going to arrest them, right? That is exciting. Even better, maybe their characters don't even remember why they're there in the first place. So not only do they have to spend the session trying to figure out how to break out of the jail that they find themselves in, but they're also forced to deal with the intrigue of wondering, how the heck did they get there in the first place? What is going on? So we did it, and my players loved it. They were intrigued and excited right from the beginning, wondering what the heck was going on, and they loved just being thrown into the middle of action and having to figure out what's going on. So after I did that successfully, it got me to thinking, this is a really good GMing technique and storytelling technique that could probably be used in a lot of different situations in role-playing games. It's not really a new or revolutionary technique either. It's a time-honored literary device called in media res, or into the middle of things. It's used in all sorts of very popular stories like the Iliad, the Odyssey, and of course, Star Wars: A New Hope.
They shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness.
It serves a lot of really useful purposes. It throws players right into the middle of action, bypassing a lot of needless exposition and setup. It gives players a really cool and exciting experience to have to deal with right from the outset, instead of having players slowly build to a climax that they get tons and tons of time to plan for. The in media res techniques sort of in a way gives them a more realistic situation to be in because they have to react more in real time. It can also be an effective way to add mystery into your story and add intrigue and drama into the events. In my prison break scenario, the players spent a significant amount of time wondering about and discussing what happened. How did they end up there? And when those things were finally revealed to them, it was a really big dramatic moment that everybody sort of loved. Another big benefit as a GM is that it helps to mitigate the potential risks of your players bypassing all the carefully planned, laid out paths that you've laid out for them. It's happened to you guys, I know, where you play all this stuff out, you plan it, and your players just skip over it or they go around it or something like that. So just avoid it altogether, start them in the middle of action, and just narrate everything that your players did up to that point that got them where they are. Admittedly, this isn't going to work for all gaming groups. If your players highly value total control and autonomy of their characters, then they might get angry or mad or really not like the fact that you've wrested control from them. So make sure that you understand your group, or at least talk to them about this possibility if you think you might want to introduce it into the future. However, despite all that, I say try it, man. Mixing up your games is always a good thing. Throwing more interesting ways to tell a story into the mix is always going to benefit. If they don't like it, they don't like it, and you don't try it again. But sometimes the same old storytelling tropes can get a little stale. So try it out. Tell me what you think. Tell me about it in the comments. Maybe you have your own ideas for interesting ways to mix things up in your storytelling approach in your games. Let me know in the comments. We can talk about it next time and share ideas. If you like what you see here today, go ahead and click that like button, the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves, and bye-bye. Sometimes, I thought about wearing suspenders today. I heard this podcast where they were talking about how belts are terrible. They don't hold your pants up. I'm always pulling. I guess they hold your pants up if you make them nice and tight. That's not comfortable. Maybe I'll wear suspenders. Ugh. Let's mop the old brow. Let's knock this one out. It's in the can. It's in the can, guys. Cut. That's the wrap. It's in the can. Is that a thing?